So you're here because you just realized your Logitech G15 sounds terrible. Or you're here because you need to replace your battery that's gone bad. Well, I can help you with both of those. Let's get started. Firstly, I'm going to be showing you how to remove the battery from your Logitech G15. All you're going to need is a small Phillips screwdriver, and it's super simple. You flip the keyboard over to the back, and it's actually just below the sticker. The thing that's a pain though is the screws are beneath the sticker, and you can either remove the sticker as a whole or cut a small hole for the screw like I did. And then once you do that, you simply unscrew both of them, and it'll pop up a little. And then there's just a couple clips around the edges, but they should pop off once you start to pull on it lightly. Now, you can't just yank this off. You have to slowly open it, and you'll see there's a ribbon cable right here. Just use your nail to unplug it, or if you're careful, you can pull on the wires, but I wouldn't recommend it because it can wreck them. And then, that's your battery. You can buy these on like iFixit, I'm pretty sure, or I'm sure there's other places you can find them. But if you got this far, you probably already found a battery. Now, in terms of getting the rest of the keyboard apart to mod it, this is a little more complicated. To begin, you're going to have to remove all your keycaps. These just pop off super easy. You just have to be careful because they are easily breakable. I do have a keycap. If you can get a keycap puller, I would recommend it. But if you don't have one, you can simply just grab it from the one edge and pull up like that. Just make sure you're doing it flat, and it should be fine. And then when you're taking keycaps off, I recommend just taking them off as the keyboard goes. Start at the top and work your way in rows. Once you've removed all of your keycaps, I recommend quickly cleaning your keyboard since it's probably quite dirty underneath your keycaps unless you clean your keyboard often. And then once you do that, you'll need a small Phillips screwdriver, and there's screws throughout the entire board which you'll be able to find, but they're in a line for the most part. And then once you remove those, you'll need to flip the board upside down. There's 4 screws around the edges, 1 screw in the middle rubber foot, which is towards the left side of the board, so if you don't want to take the whole foot off. And for the top feet, there is on the top of the board, it is underneath this, pointing to the right and pointing to the right on both of the front feet. Once you get all those screws off, there's screws hidden underneath the battery compartment right in these spots. And once you get all those, it might be a little difficult the first time, but the board should pop apart. And you just you flip it back over and you slowly pull it open. Once you've got it open, you can set this aside, and we're going to deal with the PCB first. So, I personally did the tape mod, which is where you take painter's tape or duct tape, and you tape the bottom. And this is super easy. I'll show you how to do it, but I'm going to reapply my piece since it's already cut and it's got the holes. But you are going to have to cut it in some spots. For like the battery connector, you have to cut a small slot for that, and you have to cut out a slot for the rotary knob. So on my board, I think I have 3 layers of painter's tape on here right now, but I'm actually going to add a 4th one here, just to show you an example, and because I think it should have 4. So you take your painter's tape or whatever kind of tape you're using, and you just simply lay it across the PCB. And you try and be as even as possible. And then you just lay it across like so, and then tear it or cut it. I used scissors because it was easier, but I don't have those right now, and it's just as easy to tear it. When it comes to this ribbon cable connector, all you need to do is lay a piece over top of it as you would anywhere else. Lay it flat, and then you can rather use your nail and just kind of poke it through like that, or what I did is I took a knife to get it a little more clean, but it's just as fine with your nail as long as you make sure you get it nice where it's not going to be in the way. As you can see, there's no tape in the way, so that will be easy to plug in and there's nothing obstructing it. Now that your PCB is fully taped, you can set this aside and we're going to focus on the chassis. So with the chassis, you can use packaging foam, which is a lot better. I unfortunately don't have access to that. I am going to get some in the future, but currently I don't have any. So I'm using cotton balls, because that's what I have. I just have a big lump of it. But basically what you do is you fill the board, making sure not to cover any of these standoffs because it will be a pain to deal with. But you want to kind of add enough stuff till you kind of like get rid of the rattly sound from the board. You want to get rid of that sound as much as possible. So I've taken these cotton balls and just rolled them out so it's like a line of copper or cotton, and then you kind of just lay them evenly across the base of the board. Once you have all of your cotton or packaging foam or whatever you used to dampen the sound, make sure that it doesn't go in this area because there's a rotary knob here, and especially if you use cotton like I did, you don't want anything in that area because it will get caught by the rotary knob if you turn it. And then you want to make sure that it doesn't cover any standoffs. When you're putting it back together, you want to make sure there's nothing overlapping the edges. One thing I noticed I did when I tried this for the first time to see if it actually did anything, I didn't check to make sure there was no hairs going over the edges, and I had a hairy keyboard. And I don't think many people are going to want a hairy keyboard, so you want to make sure you get most of it out of the way. If there's a little bit hanging over once you're done, you don't have to take it all apart again. You can just cut it off with a knife or scissors. Now, you're probably thinking, well, there's a gap. It's not working. Well, you just put tape over the standoffs. So, as much as it might hurt you, just push. It'll break the tape. Now, once you have it down for the most part, like mine still isn't perfect, you can start putting in the screws, which will suck it down all the way. So, start on the bottom and do everything you did in reverse. These 3 screws, which you might have to squeeze a little, but that's okay. Just don't over tighten them if you're squeezing a lot. Just tighten them a little bit till they break the tape. Another thing to look for is to make sure your power switch is lined up correctly. When I originally did this, didn't line it up properly, and I had to take the whole thing apart again. Once the top 3 screws are tight, I would do the 4 outer screws, since they mainly hold it. Once you have the 4 outer ones, you can do the under the feet ones. Once you get the bottom middle one, you can do the top side ones. Now, I would double check all of your screws are still tight, since there is going to be like foam and or cotton that you're squishing down. I would go around and check that everything is still tight after you've gotten everything else tight. And then you can put your battery back in, which you just have to line up the plug it in first, and then plug it in with your nails, and then it just clips back in for the most part. And then tighten the screws and it should fully clip back in. Like that. And now you have to do all of the top screws. These top screws aren't very tight. These are small screws, and I wouldn't tighten them very much because they would strip really easy. You just kind of until they're in there, and then you let go. Once you've got all of your screws back in, I would recommend doing a 1/over of all of these, since again they're compressing foam and they will loosen up as the foam gets compressed more. So I do a quick 1/over of all of them, just ensuring that they are actually all tight. Now, it's time to put your keycaps back on. And there we have it. We have a fully modded Logitech G915. Now, it does still sound rattly. This rattle is actually due to the keycaps themselves and partly the stabilizers of the keyboard, but honestly there's not really anything you can do about this since it's a flaw in the design of the keyboard. If you wanted, you can lube the stabilizers, but the rattle of the keycaps is so bad I don't think it would really help. But if you like the video, hit the like button. If not, hit the down like button. And subscribe if you want more.